Hello, everyone. And before moving ahead, I would like to read out this very important disclaimer that has been visible on the screen. That is, by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. The use of information is at your own risk. All right, once again, everyone, welcome back to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. I'm your host, Sam, and today we are going to talk about a very important topic, that is, new administration policies. What the 2024 election outcome means for immigration and economic policy. And this is going to be episode 2. And also to have an expert guidance on this topic, I would like to welcome our one of the finest attorney, Chan Parvatneni, an immigration attorney all the way from Dallas, Texas, from SPB Law Firm. Thank you so much, Chan, and welcome to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. How are you doing?
Thank you, Sam. And it's wonderful to be back again. And hopefully, we'll have a very productive session. We'll see what's going on in the immigration world. US had just recently had elections, and definitely a lot of changes are going to come because we have a new administration. So we will talk about upcoming changes, how people can be prepared, and how they can do things to make sure they're in compliance with the law at all times, so they can do things the right way.
Sure. And Chand, can you just give a brief to our audience that, what impact will immigrants face? And in case if there's a hot topic about mass deportation, so if that happens, then how does going to affect the economy? And will Trump's new administration create a new era, or will it leave a kind of a nightmare for Americans?
Sure. Uh, I mean, I think President Trump, I think there's a lot of rhetoric out there, but I think at the end of the day, he's looking for the best interests of United States because that's his job. And what that means is some section of people might be impacted, but we already know what President Trump has done in 2016 to 2020 when it comes to immigration, specific to immigration. We have seen their policies. So uh, I don't think they will do anything drastic where they're going to cause any issues to people who are following the rules. I think they're also very clear. They're not worried about legal immigration. They're more worried about illegal immigration, people who are not following the rules, who have done something criminal, who have had criminal offenses, who have violated the United States law. So those are the people that they are clearly saying will be impacted. And looking at what we have seen in the previous first term of President Trump's administration, clearly, I think they had done some policies that impacted asylum, policies that impacted illegals coming into the country, families being separated during the first administration, and we have seen the kind of impact they had, and they were always targeting people who are not following the rules. So definitely, I think we will see some impact because things will change. Every administration, they do things a little differently,
Yeah.
but the people who are following rules, who are going through the legal immigration process, I don't think they will be severely impacted. But when we talk about mass deportations, clearly they're talking about deporting people on a large scale, a scale that US has never seen before. Is it possible? I think more than likely, I think they're doing something about it. The reason is just earlier this week, we had a new border czar who has been announced. And
Yeah.
this is a new position. We never had a border czar. So they're clearly even creating a position that person's, that official's responsibility is to ensure the border security and ensure people who are not following the rules and coming into the country are deported back. So we have one of those. We also have the other USCIS secretary. So Christy No. So basically, we are having all these people already being selected for these top positions, and their goal is day one. They're going to pass some executive order where they'll talk about deportation. It's one of their campaign promises. So I think they'll definitely at least want to show that they're acting on it. So they will do something about it. There are 12 million illegal immigrants in the country. So out of more than 300 plus people that are in the country, we know at least 12 million illegal immigrants are in United States. So 12 million is a huge number,
Yeah.
and so these 12 million people do not have proper papers to be in the country. However, a lot of them probably have ties, family ties to United States. Maybe they have children. Maybe they have a spouse who's a U.S. citizen, or maybe a spouse who's a green card holder. And not all 12 million people are criminals. A very small segment of those people are definitely criminals because we we know for a fact that ICE has information on a lot of people who have had criminal offenses, any gang affiliations in the past, South American gangs, South American drug mafia, the drug cartel. So according to the reports, ICE already has a lot of information. And the way things work is, if somebody commits a crime, the local police, they are the people who typically arrest them. And the local police, they don't come under the federal government, they come under the state law. And lately, what we are seeing is more and more cities are cooperating with the federal agencies. So if somebody gets arrested, especially like say in Texas, many of the cities in Texas, if somebody gets arrested and they are on a visa, before releasing them on bail, once somebody gets a bail, they get released to the federal custody. So lately, nowadays, what happens is they get released to the federal custody, and they have an ICE detainer, and then the federal government is also getting involved. So the federal government, I think, what's going to do is they're going to work more closely with the local, state law enforcement officials, and anybody that has a criminal history. I think they already have a database, and more than likely, I think they have a set of people who they know have committed a lot of crimes. So when we talk about mass deportations, 12 million people cannot be deported on a single day. They're talking about almost close to $100 billion for deporting 1 million people. So to deport almost 12 million, it's going to cost $1 trillion. $1 trillion is a big uh, impact on economy. And not only that, a lot of these people are actually contributing to United States, the local economies. So it is going to be a major impact if they start deporting each and everybody. So they have to prioritize, and the administration is already clearly stating that they're going to prioritize. And when they talk about prioritizing, it's about the people who have criminal history, as in maybe they have some felony, or maybe they have some uh, something on the record that shows that they are dangerous to the society. So those people are the ones I think uh, will be targeted. The problem is, does ICE know where these people live? Maybe they have records on a lot of them, but maybe they don't have records on a lot of them. So this prioritization is what is going to happen. They're going to prioritize the people that they know are at high risk to the society. They will definitely, I think, they will be deported for sure. And and I think, in general, even in the society, if they start deporting criminals, like criminals with bad criminal histories, people who have hurt people, who have had affiliations with the drug mafia or the cartels, or gang affiliations, and so on. In general, the society will not have a problem. So, and I think, and that is what I think their target is going to be: people who have committed crimes. That I think is going to be targeted. The rest of the folks who just have families, who have ties, who have no criminal histories, my guess is more than likely, I think at least initially they will not be touched. And a lot would depend on how the states are cooperating with the federal agencies, and how President Trump, he said that he was going to take the National Guard's support. He's going to take the support of the army if required, and so on. So a lot depends on the practical logistics of how things will happen. But for a start, I think we'll definitely see something coming on January 20th.
Yeah.
January 20th is when President Trump comes into office, and that is the day they will start passing executive orders. So starting January 20th, I think at least people with criminal histories are going to be prioritized, and those are the ones that will immediately probably be targeted for deportation.
All right. Thank you so much, Chand, for this detailed explanation. And Chand, I would also like to ask you something that, as you know, you also mentioned about like ICE. So, as we know that Tom Homan, the former acting ICE director, we have seen his speeches. You know, he has been little harsh. He has been very blunt about his statement, and for sure, he has mentioned that there will be family separations, and if anyone is going to, found out crossing the borders, you know, they will be sent back to their country right away. So, do you think, Chan, that separating families in such a harsh way is kind of a right approach, or especially, you know, when people are talking about, especially for those people who have been fleed from that dangerous situation, do you think it's a right approach from Trump's administration to look upon?
Sure. So the new borders are that you just mentioned. So he was a big time official in the Obama administration. He was also a big time official during President Trump's administration. So he definitely worked under the Democratic administration, and the Democratic administration also praised him while he was working for them. and the Republican administration. So in 2017, this whole family separation thing started. It was his idea. And during that time, I think the society as a whole, I think they did not feel
Yeah.
good about it, because nobody feels good about separating children. I mean, when it's adults, it's a different thing. But when you're separating children from their parents, we as humans normally, it's something what a normal society
Of
will
course.
not
Yeah.
typically support. So we had this, yeah, we had this in 2017, 2018. There was a lot of outcry. In 2018, it stopped. So what was happening was they're separating children from the parents because they're illegals, and they're causing all kinds of issues. And now I think if you look at the border czar's the recent speeches, why do we even need to separate them? We can deport the entire family back. And
Yeah.
what he was suggesting was, you have a parent who is illegal, then you have a child probably born in the United States, United States citizen. Are you going to separate the parent from the child because the child is a United States citizen? You cannot deport the child, but you have a parent who is not a US citizen and you got to deport them. So what's going to happen? And in the media, when they asked him this question, his answer was, we can deport the entire family. I mean, the entire family can
Yeah.
go out of United States, so you don't really have to separate the families. So it was a harsh answer. That being said, that's his role. He has been given a role where his job is to stop illegal immigration. So I think, good or bad, that's his duty. The only thing is, I think people expect him to be humane, and there are laws of society. There are laws of. Uh, I mean, there is a certain understanding that you don't do things that are too cruel,
Yeah.
and whether separating children from families, from their moms and dads, that's definitely cruel. So at least from last time's experience, because he was the instrumental person in family separations last time. Again, there are statistics to show that it was working. But again, do you want to use like a cruel method to do something? I think he probably has some data from his past experience. That was a failed experiment in terms of the separation, because they had to stop it. So hopefully this time, I think if they're sending people back, they'll be a little bit more considerate about not separating the young children. But again, there is no telling, because he was an instrumental part of that policy last time, 2017 to 2018, when it stopped. But again, this time he's been talking about sending the entire family together back rather than separating them. And we have to see what that means and how they would accomplish it, especially when the child is a US citizen, which could be a possibility.
Wow, that's so good. And Chand, I think that this has to be because you also mentioned this, and I don't think that people are trying to be little lenient, but we can see that America how it used to be. Now the things are deteriorating, especially there was inflation and definitely it's not only about the presidential thing, but maybe also because of COVID also there was inflation, then there was house rent pricing was increasing. So there is something that you need to take a strong stand on, and if you are only not going to protect your country, you're not going to be a front head, then who is going to do it? And for that, even if you have to be a little strong enough to be bold enough, use some harsh words, then I think there's no other option left behind it. So I think this is something that we need to accept it, and we should just hope that whatever happens should happen for the best for America. All right. Thank you so much.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please,
yeah.
please go ahead. We would love to hear you.
Yeah, that's definitely true, because I think as a country, the politicians have a duty, the people in charge, the administration has a duty to keep the country safe and make sure people are following the rules. So I think it makes sense that they have stricter border policies. But
Yeah.
again, in general, as a society, because end of the day, everybody is human, so they have to be considerate on how they uh, do these things when they talk about deportations and stuff. I mean, they have to be considerate. So I think when they're really targeting the big criminals in the beginning, I think nobody will have a problem about criminals.
Yeah.
It's when it comes to the families that have not involved in any criminal act, and they have family ties to United States, whether some amnesty can be given or whether something else can be done as a last resort. I think it's always good that the people in charge look at all options before causing anything like a family separation. Family separation, I think, is definitely, I think, it's not something that is easy on families. So whatever they do, I think they're doing it in the best interest of the country. But at the same time, they hopefully should make sure that when things drastic steps are being enacted, draconian steps are being enacted, at least they have to make sure that is the only ultimate option before they take such steps. And hopefully they do it before doing anything like the mass deportation that they're talking about.
Right, I completely agree with this point. And Chand, as we are talking about administration, so I would also like to shed light on the green card backlog. So, what can you say? What is the likelihood of the green card backlog that is being addressed in this new administration? And how soon could we see some significant reforms in the processing time?
Sure. So when you talk about the employment-based green cards, the major issue is we have five categories: EB1, EB2, EB3, EB4, EB5. There are only 140,000 green cards in these five categories. And EB1, EB2, EB3, which is typically the most widely used category by, say, for example, the Indian nationals, we have only 120,000. It's like 40,000 for EB1, 40,000 for EB2, 40,000 for EB3, and EB4, EB5 have less number. So together it is 140,000. And the big issue for a lot of backlogs is the 7% quota. So every country can only get 7% of the total green cards. And what that means is for a country like, for example, like Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, or say France, or any of these other countries, because there is not so much of demand every year,
Yeah.
those countries don't have a problem. It's typically always China and India that have a problem because China has a lot of people, India has a lot of people. So when you have this 7% quota, what they're saying is a country can be issued only a max of 7% of the total number. So the total number is 140,000 green cards in employment based category. So only 7% can go to a single country. And if you look at the reality is China or India, they have more people, more employees working in the United States. And because of this whole 7% quota, there's a huge backlog. And every time we have a new administration, there's always a hope that they will do something about the green card backlogs because people are already contributing to the economy. They're working on H1 or they're already working in some other status and contributing to United States. But because there's a backlog, they are stuck in non-immigrant visa for a very, very long time. And is there a possibility? So again, so the most recent administration, 2020 to 2024, and before that, 2016 to 2020. So during Trump administration, the first 3 years we did not see the green cards move at all. The final year of President Trump's administration, the year 2020, the green card dates jumped up. I mean, they jumped up quite a lot. During that time, they almost went to 2014. So pretty much they had a jump of almost 5 years, all of a
Mm.
sudden, in the year 2020. And again, in the last 4 years, during President Biden's administration, the dates have not really moved at all. They have not even crossed the dates that we have seen during President Trump's administration. And there is a reason for that. It is not just the administration's fault. It is because the limits are already set. There were previously laws enacted, and according to the laws, the current administration cannot increase the limit on their own will. So the numbers are set, there is a cap, and the government has to follow the rules. So for these reasons, whether it is President Trump or President Biden, their hands are tied. And the only possibility of addressing a green card backlog, it it largely depends on whether we will have a new law enacted. So if we have a legislative proposal, if that legislative proposal becomes passes the Senate, passes the House of Representatives, becomes a law, that is when we can really see some relief to this backlog and whether such a bill is possible. In the past, we had bills like Fairness for High Skilled Immigrations, Relief Act, and so on. So these bills have been introduced in the past sessions. They've never passed. This time, do we have a chance of a bill getting passed? I think in this current administration, the Senate is with Republicans, the House of Representatives is with Republicans, the President is a Republican. So all three branches are with the same party.
Yeah.
So if at all there is a bill introduced, I think more than any time in the past couple of years, we have a very, very high chance of the bill getting passed. And a lot of Republican senators, a lot of Republican congressmen, they are in favor of legal immigration. They are in favor of high skilled immigration. They have a problem with illegal immigration, but they are in support of high skilled immigration. So hopefully, if a bill gets put on the table right now, out of all the times, there is a high chance of success. The reason being, all three branches are by
Republicans.
um, uh, yeah, are by Republicans. So if at all a legislation gets put and passes, there is always a great chance. And right now, the bipartisan support is not really required. The reason being, there is a majority, Republican majority, in all three parts. So that is the biggest hope. If at all a legislative proposal gets put there, gets introduced, and the chances of success are very high. So I think I'm pretty positive. The reason is during Trump administration last time in 2020, we did see the dates jump. We've seen the dates jump almost 6 years, like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
in 2020, especially 2020 October bulletin. I've not seen that jump during the last 4 years. So I do feel that President Trump's administration, the Republican Party, is in favor of high skilled immigrants, and I am a little bit. I do feel that there is a good chance that there at least might be some kind of a bill that is introduced. That is the number one thing. The next thing is administrative reform. So theoretically, USCIS could do something to streamline their processing times and do something about the backlog cases. However, again, looking at how things have happened in 2016 to 2020, I don't think that is probably a possibility. I do think that there will be backlogs and delays in cases on the USCIS side. Because whenever there's an administration change, people change and the policies change. So I don't think USCIS would do anything differently this time versus last time. So I think if you ask me, there is a good chance in the next 2 years, because after 2 years, the House changes again. The House goes for elections. So the next 2 years are what I think, if we do see a change, the next 2 years are the best bet, and we just will monitor and see what's going to happen in the next 2 years. Again, in 2 years, we will have elections. We will have elections where the entire House will have to go through the election process. The House will get changed. So if anything happens, it has to be in the next 2 years.
All right, that's great, and I think that's something very positive also that you have shared right now, Chand. And I think Chand, that people mostly say is that we have also heard that Trump is about completely anti-immigrants. So we need to understand this also, that it's not only about immigrants; it's about illegal immigrants. And people also considers that Trump has hired the best players, and those all are they are very powerful and they are anti-immigrants. So I would like to know from you that this is a question from people that as they are mentioning that America is for Americans and America first. So they ask this question that Trump really consider immigrants as Americans, or do Trump consider Americans only the people who has been born and brought up there? What can you say on this?
I think that is a false accusation on President Trump. The reason is his wife, Melanie Trump, his own wife was on H-1B.
Oh, yeah.
Elon Musk, one of his greatest supporters,
Right.
his biggest advisors right now, he was on H-1B. So his wife being on H-1B, not born in the United States. Elon
Mhm.
Musk, whom he greatly supports, takes his advice. He
Yeah.
was on H-1B. Vivek Ramaswamy, who is also
Exactly.
one of
Yeah.
his trusted advisors, he's using a lot of his company uses a lot of H-1Bs. So I don't think President Trump is anti-immigration per se.
True.
I
Yeah.
think it's the illegal immigration. I think it is the illegal immigration, people who are skipping the line. That is who they have a problem with, because his family, his own wife, was not born in United
Right.
States. His father-in-law, his mother-in-law, who have become who have migrated to United States, they all were outside, but they all followed rules. So what they did is they followed the rules. They went through the process, the legal migration route, took their time, and then migrated. So I think it's more about just following the rules, come through the legal process. That is what I think they're saying, and everybody understands that U.S. is a country which supports immigration, but
Yeah.
through a legal process. Yeah. So because again, United States cannot exist without immigration, because we have
Exactly.
seen like the vice president's wife, her parents are from India. So it's
Right.
like entire United States is a country built of immigrants, but
True.
the keyword is legal. Legal immigrants is what I think they're wanting, not illegal immigrants. And we
Yeah.
have so many people out here who are in politics or in like big CEO positions who have not even been born in United States. So they're not anti-immigrants; it's anti-illegal immigrants. And I think because the rhetoric is all about immigration, I think it's just like a thing where people think that they're just anti any immigrants. And I don't think that is the case
Yeah.
at all. We have already seen President Trump 2016 to 2020,
Hmm.
and I don't think they're going after people who are following the rules. It's people who are not going through the process.
No, that's absolutely very correct, and that's very important. People. I don't know whether they are getting these misconceptions or not, but I think thank you so much, Chand. For clarifying these questions and complications. Moving ahead, Chand, I would also like to know that. What new rules or laws could be coming for employment based visas, and how do you think that this will affect key industries, especially like tech, healthcare, and manufacturing, which specifically depend on foreign workers?
Sure. So, in terms of new laws, I think what the country does is they look at the demand, the industry demand, and they look at what's going on in the local labor market, what's going on with the jobs in the industry. And like 2021, 22, there was a severe shortage of people because it was COVID. People were not willing to go out of the house to work. There was a lot of shortage, and the way the immigration is set up, they typically react to the market conditions. When the market conditions are good, when the economy is doing good, they want more people. And we've seen this in the past also, like in 2000, 2001,
Mhm.
during the Y2K issue. So right now we have 85,000 H1Bs in a year. But again, depending on the market demand, what kind of need we have, there is a possibility that this could shift. So if there is really a boom where we require a lot of people to work in the country, more than likely we can have a potential regulation or a potential a bill being passed. But again, a lot depends on what kind of a market condition we are seeing, whether more people are getting laid off and coming onto the market, or there is a shortage of efficient workers. So that is what would drive immigration. And currently, I think looking at things, because there are layoffs happening in the IT industry in the last 1 2 years, probably I don't think they will increase the limits. I don't think they will increase either the H1Bs or the number of green cards, because to increase the number of H1Bs or increase the number of green cards, they have to go through the Congress. They have to have a bill passed, which is not easy unless they're able to justify it. They will be able to justify it if there is a severe shortage. Based on the current conditions, I don't think that is a possibility. So I don't think they will increase any of the quotas. But again, what they could do is they could sometimes prioritize some professions, some prioritize high skilled workers. So during Biden's administration, they tried to focus more on the AI, because artificial intelligence was driving a lot of job growth. So
Yeah.
a lot of people who were working on AI, they were able to go through the EB1 A process or the EB2 NIW process and get some success. So a lot of times, it also depends on what kind of a demand we have for a particular occupation, and they might come up with some regulations. And also the STEM graduates. So in the past, the OPT was only for 1 year. So people who graduated with a master's degree had only 1 year of work authorization. And down the line, that 1 year became 3 years because they felt that 1 year was too short, and there was a lot of demand for the young STEM graduates. So they made that to 3 years. So right now, they can work for 3 years, the STEM graduates. So these kind of rule changes might happen, and a lot depends on what's going on in the economy, what kind of demand and supply they're seeing, what kind of economy we are seeing. Is it a recession or is it like a booming economy, and so on. And sometimes the president can do things based on an executive order. Sometimes they have to go through the Congress and enact a bill. So a lot depends on what kind of challenges they're seeing. But definitely, I think normally what I've seen is the immigration sector, the immigration law, they do react to the market conditions, because the whole reason of employment based immigration is to help the US economy. So they always have a way of adjusting things to the reality. The problem is sometimes if they have to go through a bill enactment, it's a very lengthy process. It is not that easy. So it all depends on what kind of challenges we'll see in the next couple of years.
Right. So thank you so much, Chand, for explaining that in a very detailed form. And Chand, I can also see that there are so many people who has joined us. I can see Dipti, SJ, Girish, and Govind also. So guys, welcome, and feel free to post any questions, and we are definitely going to take them up. So, Chand, let's take Govind's question that he's asking. I heard that there will be some salary. If it is more than range, then H1B will be given. What will be the range?
Sure. I think again, this came up like in 2020. They almost tried to have a regulation come through on that. So right now, when a new H1Bs are given in the month of March, the we have a lottery process. So right now it's a random lottery. So anybody, any company that's filing for a H1, so everybody gets an equal chance, and they decide on who gets selected based on the random chance. And one of the things that the old Republican administration tried to do, it was a proposal. What they tried to do is they try to have a way where the highest paid employees, they are given preference. So right now, nobody's given a preference. Everybody is on the same page.
Yeah.
But there is a proposal where if somebody is paid higher salary, they get preference. So it's not like equal lottery, but the highest salary people get preference. If we don't have enough high paying people, then it goes to the next set. Right now, it is not a law. It is not passed, and what that means is more than likely that is not what's going to happen in the next couple of months. The H1B lottery will happen in March, so we're only a couple of months away from March 2025. So in March 2025, I highly suspect that they will enact any rule changes where they will say that based on the salary they have to grant H1. The reason is they have to go through a process where they draft a proposal. The proposal goes through a commenting period, and once that commenting period is done, they have to publish the final rule in a federal registrar. Only then USCIS can make a policy change. And I don't know if there is enough time to make a policy change before this coming March. But again, definitely, I think that is something what the Trump administration is interested in looking at. So in the future, such a change might be possible, where they might say that okay, we will prioritize everybody that is given a very high salary to be selected in the lottery first, and the more salary you provide, the more are your chances of success in the lottery. So something of that sort could come down the line, but at least right now there is a huge process that the government has to follow to enact such a rule.
Right, right. Thank you so much, Govin, for participation, and I hope you got your answer. In case if you still have any follow up, or if you still want to talk about anything, then please feel free to comment us. We are definitely going to take them up. And guys, we are live not only on YouTube but on Facebook, Twitter as well. So please let us know from where you guys are watching. And next up, we have Girish Kumar. So Girish is asking that for undocumented workers in industries like agriculture or construction, are there any proposed policies that might allow for temporary work permits or eventual legalization?
So in 2007 and 2008, when President Bush was in charge, there was a proposal for comprehensive immigration reform, and that was not made into a law because they had issues with amnesty. So amnesty is where somebody is undocumented and they get some kind of an amnesty to stay back in the country. So when people talk about amnesty, there is again like in Senate or the Congress, there is a lot of debate. Some people want amnesty, so they say, okay, if somebody has been living in the country for such a long time, they don't have any criminal history, maybe they should have an amnesty path. And there are some politicians who are adamant about not granting amnesty. So they don't want any kind of amnesty to anybody that broke the law in the first place. So what that means is there will definitely be a talk about amnesty because you have 12 million illegal immigrants, and I think the new government wants to solve that problem. And deporting all 12 million people is probably
Yeah.
not practically going to be possible. So what that means is they need to come up with some practical approach where they provide a solution. So something like amnesty or a temporary work permit is a possible solution. But again, at this point of time, it is too early because once the new government takes over, what will happen is they will discuss that. They will probably put some bills out there for discussion, and there's a lot that needs to happen before it becomes a law. So my guess is definitely there will be talk about those kinds of policies in the future. They have to go through the Congress. The Senate has to agree. The House of Representatives have to agree, and then finally President Trump has to sign off on the bill. So there's a huge process, which I think will be a big part of the administration in the next couple of years. And these kind of things, normally what happens is unless it becomes a bill, it will not make any difference. So because there are always these kind of bills get proposed, they don't really pass. The bills don't pass. So until the bill is passed, there is no guarantee of anything. But definitely, you will see some bills being discussed around these lines in 2025.
All right, and Chand, as you have also mentioned that there are 12 million, illegal immigrants in U.S. right now, and it's also not possible to, to deport them, especially this time, and that will be too costly. So I think, Chand, that this can also be a strategy kind of thing that Trump is trying to make in America, that he is trying to spread some kind of fear, or some kind of fear environment in illegal immigrants, so that they themselves only try to leave the America. Because I also remember that there was some news, I don't know which country, but there was some kind of illegal immigrants who were just constantly, after Trump's election, when Trump won, they were like that we need to have visas. They were contacting so many different attorneys, and they were trying to leave America as soon as possible. So I think that can also be a very smart strategy if Trump is playing right now. So do you think that it can be kind of that?
I don't think so, because I think because stopping the people at the border is probably a little bit easy, which I think the new
Yeah.
administration will focus on. But people are already in the country. I think it is not that
Mhm.
easy to catch them and round them up and then deport them back. The reason is immigration is a federal law, and a lot of states, the states have their own rights, and a lot of states they don't want to work with the federal government when it comes to immigration enforcement. And what that means is they will not let the local police departments catch people and hand them over to the federal agencies. And we also have a lot of sanctuary cities, so there are a lot of things when it comes to the local state governments. The states have rights, and the immigration is a federal government thing. So it is not that easy to just catch somebody and deport them. And most of the time, it is very hard to even track all the 12 million
Right.
people, because the 12 million people are all over the country. So it is very hard. And the police cannot just knock on somebody's door and say, "What is your immigration status?" The current rules, the police cannot go and ask somebody their immigration status, and if they are not a legal immigrant of the country, they cannot just like put them in the jail. The current rules don't allow for that, because the local state police, they cannot enforce immigration rules. So there are so many challenges, and the 12 million people getting deported, I think it's not possible. And also, once if things are done not done in the right way, if somebody's rights are being violated, there will be lawsuits. If there are deportations that are uh, going to happen, um, I mean, there definitely will be lawsuits. We have seen lawsuits in the past from ACLU when there were travel bans, there were lawsuits and so on. So I think the lawsuits and everything. So it is not something that can happen very quick, which is why the 12 million people getting deported, again, practically, I don't know how the
Yeah.
government will do it. Uh, uh, but I think what will definitely happen is people coming across the border. That I think will
Mhm.
stop, because that can be enforced a lot
Yeah.
easier than deporting the people who are already in the United States. So I think that's where I think the challenge is. But we'll see, because which is why they're even talking about $100 billion for deporting 1 million people, and almost $1 trillion for the 12
Yeah.
million people. So it's a lot of money, because you have to go find where somebody is, get all the resources and everything. So from an economical standpoint, it is not that easy. So we will have to see how that is implemented.
Absolutely. And that's.
And again, the courts are going to
Mm-hmm.
interfere. Yeah, because if the rights are being violated, the courts will definitely come into the picture also. There will
Yeah.
be lawsuits. So so we'll have to see.
Definitely. And also, Chand, I would like to talk about, international students too in this topic. That what can you say that if an international student on an F1 visa is transitioning to OPT or H1B status, then what new challenges could they face with the incoming policy changes?
Sure. So I think the biggest challenge, which I think practically is possible, is I think when the filings are done, OPT to H1B, I think the processing times probably will get little bad. The reason is whenever you have the new administration, they will probably try to enact new rules. So even the employees, the USCIS officers, sometimes they have to make sure they're following the rules. Any rule changes that are coming from the new administration. So all these things could lead to delays in the process. So one thing for sure, I think people can expect is the immigration, the filings probably are going to take a little bit longer, at least in the first couple of months. So that's a possibility. And I can expect more scrutiny, because there's so much of focus on immigration. There is definitely going to be more focus on making sure that every case is vetted properly. And what that means is we are already seeing it in the last 1 year. Even the Biden's administration, they are issuing a lot of RFEs for OPTs, the OPT status, the STEM OPT status, making sure they are doing a full course of study while they were studying. So the scrutiny can increase, and people can expect to see more RFEs, RFEs during their H1B filing, asking them to prove that they have maintained their valid status during F1 program. So people have to be really be cautious. So OPT has certain requirements. During OPT, they are supposed to work, and they can only have a maximum of 90 days unemployment during the initial OPT. They can only have a maximum of 150 days unemployment during the entire OPT. So if they cross that, they are violating the rules. They're not in compliance. So every student who's on OPT or STEM OPT, you have to make sure that you're completely following the rules of OPT and STEM OPT. Anytime there is an address change, report to the government. Anytime there is an employer change, report to the school DSO. Make sure it is reflected in the service. So all these things. So I think the big thing is, make sure you're not missing out any compliance requirements. Compliance requirements about reporting. The school DSO reportings are very important. Being employed is very important. Reporting address changes is very important. Even accidentally don't miss these things, because scrutiny will be more, and tomorrow they can use a trivial reason to say that you're not maintaining status, you're not complying. So the focus should be know your rules, be in touch with your school DSO. The school DSO is your best friend to ensure that you're following all the service rules, and doing so, you'll see less surprises.
All right, that's great. And Chand, I would also like to talk about that, the companies that are basically rely on, hiring remote workers also from outside the US, or even the businesses that are setting up operations in the US and bringing in the foreign employees. So, could we see some kind of changes in the visa rules for workers, who are employed remotely but live outside the US? Or adjustments to business related visas like L1 or H1B that basically affect the cross border operations. What can you say on this?
Sure. So right now, I think for all practical purposes, I don't think any rules will change when it comes to H1 or L1 in the immediate future. What, however, they will try to do is enforce the current rules and make sure they're being followed accurately. And what that means is H1, or say for example, H1. H1 employee needs to work from that location of the LCA. They have to be paid as per the terms of the LCA. Employees cannot pay for any H1B fees. The employers should not charge for the H1B fees, and so on. So rules are already out there in the book. I don't think they will immediately go and jump up and make some rule changes, but there will be. I definitely think there will be more scrutiny and more enforcement. So I think what people can expect is, during their filings, they can see RFAs where USCIS wants to ensure that rules are being followed, and the position meets the requirement of the visa program, and so on. So, so RFEs can increase, the processing times can increase. These kind of things can happen. Rules will not definitely change overnight, because during the last administration they did try to do that. They tried to change the rules overnight by passing USCIS memos. So all of a sudden we had a USCIS memo where they said, services and specialty occupation, you need client letters, and so on. Uh, they went to the court. The court said no, that is not right, because they violated APA rules. And what that means is, this time I don't think they will do things. They'll try to do things, quick fixes. They will try to follow the process, go through the process to make any rule changes. So it will not be an overnight change. It will be a gradual change where people have a notice of the rule change. They'll say, okay, this is the proposed rule change. This is how we want to make the rule changes. Um, and then slowly follow the process and do it. So people will have enough heads up. The idea is people should have enough heads up for these rule changes, a part of the APA process. So that is what I think will happen. Overnight, I don't think rules will change, but scrutiny, I think, will be more. So I think it's in everybody's best interest to ensure that you are kind of revisiting the rules, making sure you're complying with the rules, and be prepared for longer processing times. That is, I think, all what could happen in short
Yeah,
term.
absolutely. Completely agree with this. And Chand, I would also like to ask you one more question with this that, given the new administration's economic policies, do you also foresee any changes in how foreign investment visa programs, specifically the EB5 investor visa, will be handled? And what changes might investors expect in the coming years?
I think because President Trump, he's a big real estate investor. He knows how much the real estate contributes to the
Yeah.
country's economy. And most of the EB5 visas, I think people invest in real estate projects. Uh, and looking at Trump's positive view of real estate investments, and he also talks about tax cuts for high net worth individuals, because he believes that by doing a tax cut for high net worth individuals, they will generate more jobs, which is also true in some respects, because uh, when you have people with a lot of money who are running these businesses, they generate more jobs, they generate more employment. Due to that, I personally feel that he will be very positive about the EB5 visa program. And not only that, people could also see that H1B visas are getting more stricter and more uncertainty for H1B visas. So due to that, I definitely think that there will be more demand for EB5s, and I don't think President Trump will have any problem with EB5 visa program. The reason being, you are putting $1 million, close to $1 million in this EB5. Not only that, you're generating 10 jobs that are useful for the country. So because you're really contributing by generating jobs to the country through this EB5 visa program, I think the administration would definitely be in favor of EB5. And even during the last administration, I think EB5 was never a target. And I think not only the administration, I also think that lot more people, especially from China or India, because these are the two heavily backlogged countries, they will probably start using more and more EB5 visa process to go through their immigration process. The reason being, uh, the H1Bs will get tougher. The EB2, EB3s, there's a huge backlog. That kind of a backlog is not there in EB5. So I do suspect that EB5 will be more popular in the next couple of months for sure. And it'll also be supported by the Trump administration.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Sean, for your answer. It's very insightful and it's very great that we can hear so a lot about this topic. So, Chand, we have few more questions from FB as well. So, I would like to share my screen and let me know if the screen is visible.
Sure.
I hope it's visible, right? Oh, not
Mhm.
yet. Just a second. Is it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
All
Yeah, I do
right, all
see
right.
your screen.
I think it was taking a bit time. Okay, Chance. So this is the question: that how can I apply for this green card DV lottery?
Um, so, so the green card DV lottery, the main thing to know is it is not available for all the countries. So countries like India, countries like China, they're not even eligible for the green card diversity visa lottery. So diversity visa lottery is conducted every year. So you can go online to the government website and register. It does not cost any money, and it is for countries that have a very low representation. So a lot of African countries, for example, because they don't send in a lot of immigrants to United States. The concept of US is we need to have diversity. We need to have people from all the countries. So only a few select countries have diversity visa. You can go online and you'll see the list of the countries. And if your country is in that list, you can just get enrolled in that lottery. It's a just go to the government website, enroll. It's a very easy process. And if you're selected, you can apply for the green card. However, the idea is it is only for those countries where the representation is not very high. It is India and China, Mexico, these countries. Unfortunately, they're not eligible for the DV, the diversity visa lottery. The reason they call it diversity is because they want diversity, people from all countries, not just one country. Because US as a country encourages diversity, people from all races, all countries, and that is the goal of this DV lottery.
Wow, that's really interesting, and that's really like it seems that we are listening to someone who has been a very deep research about these topics. So thank you so much, Sean, for this detailed explanation. And continuing with this, I would also like to ask this question that. After I have done the interview and have my visa, can it be expired? And after how many months or years will it be expired?
I think if they're talking about an immigrant visa, normally what happens is you go through the consular processing. They will stamp a visa called immigrant visa IV on their passport. That passport will have an end date, and normally it is about 4 months. So it's about 4 months that the visa will expire, and they will put a stamp. So the bottom. So what that means is before that immigrant visa expires, they're supposed to travel to the country and uh, basically be in the country.
All right. Okay, and John, we have one more question with this that let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah, that hey, I am graduating this fall, so my I-20 expires in December. I am married to a US citizen and we are in the process of filing out all our forms to applying for the green card. My concern is being out of status when my I-20 expires. Should I apply for OPT to be safe, or as long as I mail all my forms before my I-20 expiration, it should be fine? Has anyone else? Yeah, please go through it. And please go and understand.
Sure. Sure, because the good thing is this person is married to a U.S. citizen. So as long as they're married to a U.S. citizen, they will be able to be they come under immediate relative category. So there is no priority date. They can immediately apply for a green card, and if they apply for a green card before their status expires, so in this case, looks like their status expires in December. So if they apply for uh, the green card, so I-130, I-485, that entire package, say this month before their status expires, they can stay back in the country as long as the green card is in process. So the bottom line is they have to make sure this 485, this adjustment of status application, is sent before their status expires, and by doing so, they're allowed to stay back in the country even after the student status expires. Uh, so again, if their concern is to just stay back in the country, I think they don't even need to apply for an extension of their OPT. Uh, but again, if they want work status, when you apply for adjustment of status, the EAD card takes anywhere from 1 to 3 months. Recently, it's taking about 1 to 3 months to get the EAD card. So again, to me, it does not make any sense applying for an OPT EAD card, because by the time you get that OPT EAD card, you might even get the EAD card through your marriage-based filing. So I think what they should do is, she's married, they should just go ahead and file their adjustment of status application this month, November, so they know that they're good and they can she can stay back in the country.
All right. So I think now we have questions from Dipti also. So Chand, I would like to cover that as well. That Dipti is asking, the
Mhm.
elections brought a lot of discussion about increasing the wage requirements for H-1B workers. I am an employer in the tech sector. How soon could these changes be implemented? And how should I prepare to stay compliant while managing costs?
Sure. For H1B, we go through something called OFLC data center. The wages get published every July. So every July, normally what happens is the wages get republished. So the current wages, they're published in July 2024. So if you look at the wages, some counties the wages increased, some counties it decreased, but overall we saw an increase. And again, the next revision will again happen in the month of July. So next July 2025, you will definitely see all the OFLC center wages getting updated. So for any of the future H1B filings, after July, you have to use the new wages. Until then, we can use the current OFLC wages, which means at least until next July, nothing is going to change. July, when the wages get published, things can change. And now, because we have a new administration, the new administration can probably change the way the wages are calculated. So, again, it's a possibility. It could happen. It might not happen. In the old Trump administration, it did happen. All of a sudden, the wages were updated, and we had to use the new wages, which were extremely high. And then what happened was there was a lawsuit, and the court said that the wages were increased without proper notice, and then the wages went back. So at least during Trump administration, for 2 months, the wages were increased. It was drastic increase, and people had a lot of challenges. And when the wages were increased, what people were doing was they were doing something called wage surveys. So you can always do a wage survey and uh, get a different wage. So people were like going back and forth with wage surveys to overcome the OFLC wage center wage increases. It was a big challenge. But again, what would happen is we would know well ahead of time, because they will tell us that they're in the process of updating the wages. But next July 2025 is when I think people will see some kind of changes in the wages.
All right. Thank you so much, Dipti, and thank you, Chand, also for your answer. And Dipti, in case if you still have any follow up or any topic that you would like to explore or ask from Chand, then please go ahead and you can like freely mention it in our comment section. And Chand, with this, I would also like to ask you one more question of today's topic. That if we talk about the current asylum process in the U.S., then this involves a lot of steps that individuals are going through, to seek protection from persecution. So, my question to you is that what impact might the election results have on the current asylum process? And are there some kind of indications of policy changes that could affect asylum seekers?
Yeah, I definitely think that asylum process would majorly change the new administration, and I think the new administration. I think they're talking about remain in Mexico program. We have seen this in the last 2016 to 2020 during the previous Trump's administration, and what that means is the remain in Mexico program or a safe third country agreement, uh, which could be reinstated. And what that means is they will restrict asylum applications at the border, and they will have people stay back in Mexico while the application is getting processed. And they have to seek asylum in other countries, and it could delay the process. So, additional requirements, additional limits could be introduced. And what that means is it's not going to be as easy for people to just walk in and claim asylum. So if you look at what happened last time, it was that remain in Mexico program. So it's a similar thing. You remain in this other country or a safe third country. You go through that process before coming to US. So something of that sort could happen again. And if something like that happens, the asylum program is greatly going to be impacted, and they could see drastic delays in asylum program. And the reason for that is I think they're seeing more and more people misusing asylum programs. So I think because of that, I think as a whole, I think they really want to kind of put some limits, reform this whole current process. I do expect changes in the asylum program.
All right. Thank you so much, Shand. And as we have almost come across 1 hour, I think it has been a great discussion. That today, I really feel so glad that you have joined me, and we have really, I mean, been through so much, a lot of discussion today. So I think from my side, it was a very good session. And any last message, Sean, that you would like to share to our viewers? Anything to documented immigrants, to undocumented immigrants that you would like to share?
Sure. I think, irrespective of the administration change, I think everybody, I think, should comply with the rules, whether it is the Biden's administration or a Democratic administration or a Republican administration. The reason being, as long as people are complying with the rules, people are following the proper legal process. I mean, whether no matter who comes, normally the law will support them because the court system in US is very strong. So as long as rules are being followed, tomorrow the court system will help safeguard everything. So if somebody is following the rules and they followed the proper process, they're going through the H-1B process. If there is a wrongful denial, you can go to the court and seek to get it reversed, for example, because the courts have done that during the past administration also, 2016 to 2020, 2020 to 2024. There were so many lawsuits that people won against the government. So the bottom line is, if the rules are being followed, the thing is you'll have recourse in terms of the court system. The legal system is very strong. If people don't follow the rules, that is when they will have a problem. And what that means is everybody who's staying in the country in some kind of valid status, non-immigrant visa or an immigrant visa, some status, they need to know the rules to comply with their visa requirements. Always make sure you comply with the visa requirements, not just the criminal rules, the criminal policies and stuff, but also the immigration rules and immigration policies. Follow the immigration rules of your visa, and at the same time, don't get in trouble with the law. I mean, don't do anything where somebody could get arrested. Things like driving drunk or stealing from a departmental store. So these kind of things I keep seeing happen occasionally. People come to us for consultation, or things like doing drugs and getting caught doing drugs, selling drugs. Because lately I've been getting a lot of cases where somebody's in a visa, and they got caught while driving drunk. They did a drug test. They found drugs in their system. Now it's on the record, and doing drugs is a federal crime. So all kinds of stuff. So I think people be cautious. I mean, if you're not involved in any criminal offense, most of the time you'll not have a problem with immigration. So just be cautious, and as long as people are complying with the law, there is no issue. And we'll hope for the best, and we'll see what kind of rules are being changed. Rules will definitely change, but be educated. I mean, keep up with immigration forums, immigration talk shows, the newspapers, everything. Just keep yourself abreast with the law, and always do things that are compliant with the nature of your visa, and you should not have any issues.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Chand, for your time. And, not only for your time, for insightful session, it has really been great. And thank you so much to all our viewers
जी,
also, who has
जी,
participated today and asked your questions. Thank you so much, everyone. And, you
जी,
guys, you can also contact Chand on the given
हुँ,
number that is 817-523-8247. You can also email him on law@spblawfirm.com, and you can
हुँ,
visit his website that is spblawfirm.com. So
हुँ,
thank you so much, Chand, and thank you so much to everyone. I hope that you found this discussion valuable. Until next time, stay safe and take care. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. I'm Sam signing off for now.
Thank you, Sam.